Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
The Minnesota Vikings are standing at a crossroads that could define their franchise for the next decade, and it all centers around one man, defensive coordinator Brian Flores. While Vikings fans are holding their breath, praying their defensive mastermind doesn't bolt for greener pastures, the drama unfolding behind the scenes is absolutely explosive. This isn't just about keeping a coach. This is about whether Minnesota can finally escape the purgatory they've been trapped in and become legitimate Super Bowl contenders, or whether they'll watch helplessly as their championship window slams shut before it ever really opened. NFL insider Josina Anderson just dropped a truth bomb that has Vikings Nation both relieved and terrified. When Mike Florio floated the idea that the Dallas Cowboys could throw a massive bag of money at Brian Flores to become their next defensive coordinator, Anderson fired back with a reality check that cuts right to the heart of this situation. Her point was simple but powerful. Why would Flores leave one defensive coordinator job for another with the same title? The Vikings would match any pay raise. Come on, people, it seems logical on the surface, right? Minnesota isn't going to let their defensive genius walk away over a few $1,000,000. If Jerry Jones gets aggressive and offers Flores $8 million per year, the Vikings would match that instantly without even blinking. Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah know exactly what they have in Flores, and they're not stupid enough to let him slip through their fingers for something as simple as money. But here's where the situation gets complicated and why Vikings fans should still be losing sleep at night. Money isn't everything in the NFL coaching world. There are other factors at play that could absolutely lure Brian Flores away from Minnesota, and these factors might be even more powerful than a hefty paycheck. Consider this scenario. What if Jerry Jones doesn't just offer Flores more money? What if he sweetens the deal with the assistant head coach title? That's a legitimate promotion, not just a lateral move with better pay. If the Cowboys dangle that assistant head coach designation in front of Flores, along with a massive salary increase, and the Vikings refuse to match both the money and the title, suddenly we're looking at a completely different situation. Flores might start thinking about his career trajectory, about what looks better on a resume when head coaching positions open up in future seasons. Then there's the quarterback situation, which might be the elephant in the room that nobody wants to acknowledge. Brian Flores is a brilliant defensive mind, but he's also a competitor who wants to win championships. When he looks around the league at potential opportunities, he's not just thinking about dollar signs and job titles. He's thinking about his chances of actually winning a Super Bowl. If Flores looks at the Dallas Cowboys with Dak Prescott under center or the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow leading the offense, he might be calculating his odds differently than if he stays with the Vikings and their massive question mark at quarterback. Flores might be thinking he could transform the Cowboys' defense into a top 10 unit while Prescott does his thing on offense, or he could work with the Bengals and ride Joe Burrow's elite quarterback play to championship contention. Can Minnesota offer him that same level of confidence at the quarterback position right now? That's the $1,000,000 question, or should I say the $8 million question. And if you need any more evidence that this quarterback situation matters, just listen to what former Flores player Stephon Gilmore said about the Cowboys potentially hiring the Vikings defensive coordinator. Gilmore, who won Defensive Player of the Year under Flores, tweeted that if Dallas hires Flores, they'll instantly become playoff contenders next season. He's absolutely right, and Vikings fans should be terrified that Jerry Jones might scroll past that tweet and have a light bulb moment. The Cowboys don't have the most talented defensive personnel right now, but they've got draft picks. They'll have money to spend in free agency, and if they let Flores mold that defense the way he wants while their offense continues producing, Dallas could be an absolute problem for the entire NFC. Meanwhile, Gilmore probably should have kept that observation to himself instead of potentially giving Jerry Jones ideas. The massive factor that everyone needs to understand about the Brian Flores situation isn't just about money or titles or even quarterback play in isolation. It's about whether Flores trusts Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's plan at the quarterback position moving forward. Think about this scenario. What if Adofo-Mensah sits down with Flores and says they're running it back with J.J. McCarthy? They'll sign a veteran like Marcus Mariota, and that's the plan. Maybe Flores looks at that and thinks it's solid. Maybe he believes in McCarthy's potential and thinks a veteran safety net is enough. But there's also a very real possibility that Flores looks at that same plan and thinks it's nowhere near good enough. He might be sitting there thinking he doesn't trust that approach, questioning what they're doing, wondering why he should stick around when he could go somewhere that's actually trying to win Super Bowls and contend in the playoffs right now, not 2 or 3 years down the road when McCarthy develops. This is the pressure cooker situation that Kevin O'Connell finds himself in this offseason. It's not just Justin Jefferson looking at the quarterback decision and evaluating whether he wants his future tied to this franchise. It's not just the entire fan base scrutinizing every move. It's also potentially the defensive coordinator, the guy who's been carrying this team on his back for the past 2 years, evaluating whether he believes in the direction this organization is heading. O'Connell's quarterback decision this offseason will have ripple effects throughout the entire organization, and losing Brian Flores because they couldn't convince him of their plan would be an absolute disaster. Speaking of J.J. McCarthy, the young quarterback made his feelings crystal clear about wanting to keep Flores in Minnesota. McCarthy was scrolling Instagram and liked a Vikings fan account post saying they need to do whatever they can to keep Flores. That's significant because it shows McCarthy, who hasn't even played a regular season game yet due to injury, already understands how valuable Flores is to this organization. Everyone in the Vikings building wants Flores to stay. The players love him, the coaching staff respects him, and the front office knows they struck gold when they hired him. But wanting him to stay and actually keeping him are two very different things. Let's talk about why Brian Flores is so valuable and why this defense has been absolutely lights out over the past couple months. Their pass rush has been getting home consistently, and even though the secondary doesn't have a ton of elite talent on paper, Flores has been scheming guys open and getting incredible production out of players who might not start on other teams. Harrison Smith is having a career renaissance at an age when most safeties have already retired. It's an absolute shame that we won't see this defense in the playoffs because they're playing championship caliber football right now. Just imagine if the Vikings had won 1 or 2 more games earlier in the season. We'd be talking about this Week 18 matchup against the Packers being for the 7th seed in the NFC playoffs. Then who's to say the Vikings couldn't have gone into Chicago and beaten the Bears in the first round just like they did in Week 1? This defense is good enough to win in the playoffs, but they won't get that chance because the offense couldn't hold up its end of the bargain early in the season when Sam Darnold was turning the ball over like he was trying to break some kind of record. 2 players have emerged as absolute blue-chip talents on this Flores defense, and they represent the future of this unit. Dallas Turner and Jalen Redmond have been revelation after revelation this season. Let's start with Dallas Turner, the rookie edge rusher who's only 22 years old but playing like a seasoned veteran. Turner had an up-and-down start to his career, which is completely normal for a player that young. But what he's been doing lately has been absolutely spectacular. He's getting quality playing time with over 600 snaps. He's racked up 7 sacks on the season, and he's shown the explosive pop that made him a first-round pick. Turner has 40 pressures, 32 tackles, and a forced fumble this past weekend. If we're talking about potential roster moves the Vikings could make this offseason, trading Danielle Hunter to get Dallas Turner even more reps makes a ton of sense. You'd have Turner and Andrew Van Ginkel both playing edge rusher positions, both capable of dropping into coverage when needed, but Turner would be your pure pass rusher, bringing that elite explosiveness off the edge every single snap. But if you want to talk about Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's biggest success story as a general manager, forget about draft picks or trades for a second. The answer is finding Jalen Redmond. This has been the biggest revelation on defense by far. Redmond has 6 sacks as an interior defensive lineman, which is ridiculous production from that position. He's got 35 pressures, a forced fumble, and he's top 10 in the league in pass rush win rate. But here's the kicker. He's also top 10 in run defense win rate, which means he's not just a one-dimensional pass rusher. Redmond is dominating in every aspect of interior defensive line play. According to Pro Football Focus, he's graded out at a 73 overall, which ranks 19th in the league, and he's top 10 in run defense grades specifically. This guy has been absolutely awesome, and he came out of nowhere. When you start looking at the future of this Vikings defense, even with older players like Harrison Smith likely retiring soon, you've got Dallas Turner and Jalen Redmond entering the prime years of their careers. You've still got Andrew Van Ginkel in his prime playing at an elite level. Blake Cashman and Eric Wilson will probably be brought back to anchor the linebacker position. If the Vikings can somehow shore up the secondary this offseason by drafting a Mansour Delane or a Cooper DeJean, this defense could absolutely maintain its top 5 level for years to come. That's the blueprint for sustained success. But it all hinges on keeping Brian Flores as the architect of this masterpiece. Looking ahead to this Sunday's game against the Green Bay Packers, it should be an absolute bloodbath. Good luck to Sean Clifford or whoever the Packers' third-string quarterback is, because Green Bay will almost certainly rest Jordan Love and probably Malik Willis too. That means some poor backup is going to have to go on the road and face Brian Flores' defense in a game that means nothing to the Packers but everything to Vikings pride. The over-under for this game is 35 points, and Minnesota is a 7-point favorite. Vegas is basically assuming that Clifford won't be able to move the football at all, and they're probably right to think that. This Flores defense is going to eat him alive. Now, I want the Vikings to win this weekend, and I don't care one bit about their draft position. They're already picking 17th right now, and if they win this game while the Colts lose to the Texans, Minnesota will probably be picking 18th. There's virtually no difference between those picks in terms of talent available, so why not go out and win? Beyond draft considerations, there's something to be said for the morale and vibes in that locker room heading into next season. This was a season from hell for the Vikings with all the quarterback chaos and injury problems, but they're about to finish 9-8, potentially ending the year on a 5-game winning streak. That momentum matters. Having players walk into the offseason feeling good about themselves and the direction of the team matters. It builds culture and confidence, 2 things this organization desperately needs heading into what could be the most important offseason in franchise history. Now let's pivot to the Anthony Richardson trade rumors, because this ties directly into the Brian Flores situation and the quarterback crisis facing Minnesota. Richardson's time in Indianapolis is most likely finished. The Colts made the decision not to activate him off injured reserve for the rest of the season, and they made that choice about a week and a half ago to roll with Joe Flacco instead. That tells you everything you need to know about what Shane Steichen thinks of Anthony Richardson at this point. The relationship appears broken, and Richardson will almost certainly be available this offseason. From my perspective, if the Vikings could land Anthony Richardson for a day 3 pick, whether that's a 5th rounder or a 6th rounder, you absolutely do it. You probably couldn't get him for a 7th rounder, but anything beyond that is worth the gamble. The Vikings are supposed to have 11 draft picks this upcoming season, so you'd essentially be taking a flyer on a quarterback with immense physical talent. Could this be a waste of a 5th-round pick? Sure, absolutely. But you know what? Teams waste 5th-round picks all the time in the draft anyway. Most 5th-rounders never become significant contributors, so why not take a chance on a former top 5 pick who has all the physical tools but just needs the right coaching and system? The situations are eerily similar between Anthony Richardson and J.J. McCarthy if you really examine them. Both have lengthy injury histories that are concerning. If you pulled up Richardson's 2024 statistics and compared them to McCarthy's college production, you'd probably see a lot is undeniable. This is a quarterback with a cannon arm, elite athleticism, and the physical tools to be special if everything clicks. The potential is absolutely there if someone can unlock it. Here's something interesting that people might have forgotten. Kevin O'Connell is already a believer in Anthony Richardson. Remember that viral moment last year on Sunday Night Football? This was right after Richardson got benched for Joe Flacco. And after the game, O'Connell went up to Richardson and told him he was a bad dude who would be in this league for a very long time. O'Connell saw something in Richardson that made him seek out the young quarterback after a game and offer that encouragement. That wasn't just coach speak for the cameras. O'Connell genuinely believes in Richardson's talent, betting on a player he's already evaluated and believed in. If the Vikings do acquire Richardson, it doesn't mean they shouldn't also add a veteran quarterback. In fact, the ideal quarterback room for Minnesota next season might be J.J. McCarthy, Anthony Richardson, and a stable veteran presence. That tells me the Vikings aren't okay with being stuck in purgatory anymore. They're not going to settle for mediocrity or just pray that one option works out. Having McCarthy and Richardson gives you 2 quarterbacks with tremendous upside and potential. Adding a veteran like Marcus Mariota gives you stability and insurance in case both young guys get hurt or struggle. Mariota could come in, win a game or two, and stabilize the room while also mentoring the younger players. That's a quarterback room I could get behind. That's a quarterback room that shows the Vikings are being bold and aggressive rather than passive and hopeful. If this is the Vikings quarterback room next season, I'm giving it high marks. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy would still be the presumptive starter in QB1 heading into training camp. Then you'd have Marcus Mariota as QB2, the polarizing veteran who can actually play if needed. Anthony Richardson would likely be QB3, similar to how Daniel Jones was with the Vikings this past season on the practice squad, learning behind the scenes, developing without pressure. But make no mistake, the Vikings need to be bold this offseason at the quarterback position. They've been timid for too long, making safe choices that keep them stuck in mediocrity. Trading for Richardson while signing Mariota and rolling with McCarthy would be bold. It would signal to the rest of the organization, to Justin Jefferson, to Brian Flores, and to the entire fan base that Minnesota is done messing around. The only viable options for the Vikings at quarterback this offseason are pretty clear if you think about it logically. You either ride it out completely with J.J. McCarthy, making him the unquestioned starter for all 17 games next season with no safety net, or you go big game hunting for an elite quarterback like Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson. Those are really the only two approaches that make sense. I don't even know if I'm being serious when I say this, but with the way Baker Mayfield has looked in Tampa Bay, I'd rather ride it out and take a chance on McCarthy on his rookie deal or Anthony Richardson on a cheap contract than commit significant resources to a 30-year-old Baker Mayfield. Yes, you'd probably win more games with Mayfield, but you'd also be right back in that middle ground purgatory that the Vikings need to escape from. Minnesota already made the bold move last offseason by trading up to draft J.J. McCarthy in the first round. They committed to a direction, they paid the price to get their quarterback of the future, and now they need to stick with that plan. Don't veer from it now just because things didn't work out perfectly in year one. You're possibly going to finish 9-8 this season with some of the worst quarterback play in the entire league. If you just get something out of McCarthy next year, if he's just healthy and plays competent football, the Vikings are probably in the playoffs. That speaks volumes about how good the rest of this roster is and honestly how good the coaching staff is from top to bottom. So the options are crystal clear. Either you ride with J.J. McCarthy and support him with the right pieces around him, or you swing for the fences and go get Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson. But if you're going to ride with McCarthy, you better surround him with weapons, add that veteran insurance policy, and maybe take a flyer on Anthony Richardson to give yourself multiple shots at finding your franchise quarterback. That's being bold. That's showing Brian Flores you're serious about winning. That's telling Justin Jefferson this organization won't settle for mediocrity. The Minnesota Vikings are at a defining moment in their franchise history. Keeping Brian Flores might be the most important task facing this organization, even more important than the quarterback decision because Flores is the reason this team is still competitive despite all the offensive chaos. If Flores leaves, if he takes his defensive genius to Dallas or Cincinnati or anywhere else, the Vikings will be starting over on that side of the ball and wasting the prime years of elite talents like Justin Jefferson. The money will matter, the titles will matter, but ultimately, convincing Flores that Minnesota is committed to winning championships will matter most. Show him the plan at quarterback, give him the resources he needs on defense, and make him believe that the Vikings are building something special that he wants to be part of. This offseason will define whether Minnesota takes the next step toward championship contention or falls back into the mediocrity they've been trapped in for years. The decisions made about Brian Flores, about the quarterback position, about the roster construction will echo for years to come. Vikings fans can only hope that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell are ready to be bold, make the tough calls, and finally push this franchise over the hump. The talent is there, the coaching is there, and the opportunity is there. Now they just have to seize it. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on whether the Vikings can keep Brian Flores and what they should do at quarterback, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our coverage as this wild offseason unfolds. The Vikings are standing at a crossroads and will be here covering every twist and turn. Let's go Vikes.